Okay, good afternoon and welcome to 802 Scoop Table Talk live from 185 North Main Street in Barrie. It's a beautiful sunny day again. It was this morning, then it rained, poured rain, and back to sunny and beautiful and super humid. So we know, typical of Vermont, the black flies will be out to invade us anytime soon. I think I've seen a few actually.
It was out there was some Sunday.
I did, yeah.
Up in Glover, they were some thick.
I bet they were. Glover's known for that.
Yes.
So if you're not sure who that voice is, in the studio with us today is Lieutenant Governor John Rodgers. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's
good
great
to have you as always.
Yeah, no, it's great to be with you both, and always excited to be on the show.
Good. We love to have you, and hopefully we'll get lots of people tuned in. I've said that they could ask their questions, and we would get to as many as we thought we possibly could.
Great.
So let's kick it off with, how do you think this year's gone, this legislative session?
Well, there's certainly been some ups and downs. I think it got started slow. I think the biggest thing that I heard from Vermonters during the last campaign was cost of living is too high here, and the biggest thing on that list is property taxes. And unfortunately, the legislature has moved very slow on education reform, not lived up to their commitments. And best case scenario now, if we pass something, there's negotiations going on behind the scenes. We're hoping by the end of the week we can have something we can all agree on. But best case scenario, it's not going to start saving taxpayers money for 3 or 4 years. Mm-hmm. And for me, that's a failure. Mm-hmm. If we would have got on it early on last session and made the structural changes that needed to be made, then next tax year we could actually see some relief. And I'm really worried that, the education property taxes are going up another 10% this year. Mm-hmm. We're buying them down, right? We're spending over $100 million to buy it down to about 3% increase. No Vermonters' pay is going up that fast. So that's going to make it so in the last 6 years it's gone up 50%. I don't know anybody whose pay has gone up 50%. No. It's unsustainable, and to see the lack of urgency has just been really disappointing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, on top of the cost of everything else that has gone up, the fuel and food and everything else that everybody, health insurance, because of that whole mess. And even just Blue Cross and Blue Shield leaving the state has, I know, caused me a horrible problem and cost me a whole lot more money. So
yeah, there's just layers and layers of it, and now food costs are going up, and they're going to go up even more because we're going to see a lag. But right now, there's farmers out in the Midwest that are talking about not planting crops because their margins are so thin that with the increase in cost in fertilizer and fuel, there may be absolutely no profit in what they grow. Yeah. Why would you plant if you can't make money? I'm worried about food security now. I'm worried about folks who are already living marginally being able to continue to afford food. Folks that travel a long ways are spending a lot of extra money on gas, so there's less extra money to spend other ways, which is going to impact other businesses like restaurants and that sort of stuff. So there are a lot of chain reactions going on, and little progress has been made in the State House to save Vermonters money.
Yeah, it's disgusting, really. Did you go into the session with goals?
Oh, I had high hopes. I had high hopes that we were going to make progress, getting to a foundation formula, getting a realistic cost to educate pupils, and have some sort of plan on how we move forward to create efficiencies, make sure our kids are getting a good education that Vermonters can afford. So that was one of my highest priorities and still is. There are a lot of other things moving. We actually did make some progress. It's not over the finish line yet, but a lot of folks out there are talking about Act 181, and a lot of that is being rolled back. And it's interesting, Raylene, because in 2024, when that and a whole bunch of other really bad bills were moving forward, myself and James Ellers and Mike Covey and several other people put together 2 rallies at the State House to support the governor's position, which on a lot of those bills he vetoed them and then they were overridden, and to push back. And it was called Tap Trees, Not Vermonters.
Right.
And unfortunately, it didn't gain enough traction. The press didn't cover it really well. And so a lot of Vermonters didn't know that this was coming at them, that this was going to affect what they could and couldn't do on their land until the maps were released. And then all of a sudden, everybody went, holy cow, that's my land. So it's unfortunate that that's what it took to roll it back. What I am hopeful of is that that has re-engaged a sector of Vermonters that maybe haven't been paying attention, maybe they haven't been voting, because all of a sudden this became real to them. And what I want all Vermonters to know is politics is not a spectator sport. We need everybody to participate.
Every time,
we need people to know how their legislators are voting. I talk to people sometimes and they go, oh yeah, I vote for this person because they came to my door and they're a nice person. Well, that's great.
Right.
There's a lot of nice people there. I think most people there are nice and well-meaning, but are they voting for stuff that benefits you or hurts you? And people have to know that when they go to the voting booth.
And as a network, I guess, there's more than just myself that does the podcast, as you know. And as a network, I think we've been trying to be a lot better about sharing the roll calls so that people can literally see this is who voted for what. And that, I think that has actually gotten a lot of attention and people have started to question a little more.
It's really important. It's really important that people know, because those representatives and senators are supposed to be representing the will of the people who send them there. And unfortunately, like on the 181 debate on the floor of the House, there was what they called the Burt Amendment, which allows accessory on-farm stuff to not have to go through Act 250, which was the intention of accessory on-farm back in the beginning when Senator Starr was there. It was to allow farmers who we know are struggling to make a little extra money some other way, right? That amendment passed, and the House Democratic leadership was so upset that some of their people voted in favor of that they called a recess, they went into a caucus, and they basically scolded their people for representing their constituents, not following leadership. And I think that kind of stuff is disgraceful. You can be part of a party, you know, whatever, but you are supposed to represent the people who send you there.
And we've seen in a lot of cases where that doesn't happen.
A lot of cases that doesn't happen.
Yeah. Party lines isn't always the way.
No,
for sure.
No, and I really think the two-party system is broken, and that is why, you know, I run as a Republican, but I serve all Vermonters. My door is open to all Vermonters. I have worked on issues for Vermonters of all political stripes. When somebody calls my office, I don't ask what party they're affiliated with. I don't ask who they voted for. I ask them, how can I help you? And so we actually get compliments in the office. We've had tons of people say they have never seen a lieutenant governor's office that worked as hard as we do.
Well, we need more of that.
Absolutely,
For sure.
Absolutely. And it's disturbing when there's some people out there that say it's a ceremonial office. Well, it's only a ceremonial office if you're not smart enough to use the platform to help Vermonters. And we have worked very, very hard, my chief of staff and I, 2 people in that office. We have had a positive effect on many, many Vermonters' lives.
So if we go back to goals and education reform being one of them for you, anything else that you really wanted to get done that maybe isn't going to get over the finish line?
Well, there are so many things. When I think about the Vermont that I hope to see, is a Vermont where every kid that grows up here that wants to stay here and live here is going to have an opportunity. And unfortunately, we're seeing most of our kids leave because when they look at the math in Vermont doesn't work out. If you look at, say, I'm from the Kingdom, right? So you take a young person, graduates high school in the Kingdom, they look at what's available for jobs there, and they go, based on that income, I can't afford to buy a house and pay taxes here. And so they look other places, and there's a lot of other places around the country that are more affordable where the math does work out. So one of my objectives, and I think we're making progress on this, our tech centers are doing a great job. We've got a whole bunch of private industry that is setting up apprenticeships and setting up academies to train tradespeople. I have made my living in the trades. I grew up on a dairy farm. I've worked in forestry, I've worked in manufacturing, I've worked in building, but my main occupation was I started a small masonry business when I was in my 20s, and I still do that today. I still do stonework and excavation. And that has been a great career for me, and over the years I've worked with many, many other tradespeople who have had great careers. But when I go on to a job, all the people there are our age, not our kids' age, right? And so we've missed a whole generation of kids. And so what I'm afraid of is that when our generation starts to retire, there are not going to be enough tradespeople who will build you a house or fix your roof or put some windows in or fix your car or your plumbing. All the trades are suffering right now, and every contractor I talk to needs people. And I know tradespeople that are making well into the six figures. They're good paying jobs. And so I think that the more we can do to encourage our kids to get into those trades, the more they'll see, okay, this is a career where I can make enough money to afford that house in my community. And that is going to be essential to the future of Vermont, because we have to change our demographics. Right now, we're the second oldest state in the country, and that has to change, or we'll shrivel up and blow away. It just, we can't sustain, the workforce, the tax rate, everything is dependent on encouraging more of our kids to stay here and making it attractive for more kids to come here. We've got a captive audience with our own kids and with all the kids that come here for our universities and colleges, and we have to just make it so it's inviting for them.
How about successes? Do you feel like
we've had some successes, and a lot of them are very small successes that very few people will notice because they're not in the building. But one that I would share with you, because I know you're interested in the subject matter, we work with the recovery centers and recovery housing and all that stuff all the time. And so I had a whole bunch of the recovery centers in the office early on the first year of the biennium. And one of them said, we've got this problem that when we have someone in recovery housing that violates the rules and brings drugs or alcohol in or comes in under the influence, we have to go through an eviction process, which can take 6 months. And the problem is they sometimes pull down other residents, right? They're a bad influence.
Almost always.
And so he said, and the good thing is it doesn't cost anything. I said, I can help you with that. And so I got language drafted up, got a couple senators to sponsor it, and that bill was just signed by the governor.
Which is amazing.
Just amazing. Yeah. So that now when somebody violates the rules, they have some choices. Do you want to go back to treatment? Is there a different type of bed that we can get you in? But it gives them the opportunity to move them out of that recovery housing so they can free up that bed for somebody who wants to be there and not risk the sobriety of the other members.
Else. Yes.
Yeah, so that, to some people that might sound huge, but small, but to a lot of people,
It's huge.
That is a huge change.
It absolutely is a huge change.
and so-
I actually sponsored the luncheon that we all had
Yeah.
over here at the Women's Recovery
I
Center
remember,
in
and
Barrie,
we got to tour the housing over there.
Yeah, it was that was a great day, and it's super important because I've seen it with my own child, and I've seen it many times. One goes down and they all go down.
Yeah.
And some people have really worked hard to have a lot of time under their belt, and it's shameful.
Yep, agreed.
So-
Yeah, and so there's a lot of things like that. There's a lot of bills that were moving. Like there was a baby formula bill that we worked on. There was a food dye bill that we worked on. There was a bill for smoking cessation, trying to get the vape carts and devices that are targeted towards kids out of the market here. So we've been involved with a ton of bills, and it's such a wonderful platform. It is so weird that so few people have ever used it, because we work with senators and representatives every day on legislation, on amendments, on strategies. We meet with the governor's office at least once a week. I work with his team pretty much on a daily basis. And so we're affecting a lot of things that are moving through the building, as well as doing constituent work for people who call up and say, hey, I've got a problem with such and such a department or such and such an agency, or I can't get hold of the person I need to get hold of. And so we're helping regular Vermonters every day, trying to help them make the connections.
I mean, that's awesome. You all are in overtime.
Yes.
I mean, that was kind of, I think everybody kind of knew that was going to happen this time. For some reason, I feel like that's the way it was going to be from the get-go.
Well, it seems to happen more often than not. And it is unfortunate because from my perspective, there was a lot of committees getting done back early in the session when they could have been working. There was a lot of work that should have been done early on that wasn't getting done, and now we wait to the last minute. And so what's going to happen, there'll be deals made on the bill, and it'll move forward, and there'll be a whole bunch of people that hold their nose and vote for it, because it's never going to be something everybody wants, and especially when you rush it at the last minute. So they've basically, the bills that the House and Senate Education Committees passed out, from my perspective, they're big nothing burgers. They don't really help us bend the curve. And so now, behind closed doors, there's a handful of people wrangling, trying to make something that the administration won't veto, that the Senate and the House can both support. And so it's going to pop out sometime this week. People are only going to have a few days to digest it. A whole bunch of people are going to be really upset about that fact. And some people are going to support it, and some won't. And, hopefully at least it gets us to that first step of making some changes. But I am very fearful for regular Vermonters that the next couple years are going to be 5, 8, 10% increases on property tax per year. And by the time these cost savings are implemented, our property taxes, which are already out of control, are going to be even worse.
And do you feel like when you get to the end like this, that this is also where things just die? And this is where we have a hiccup? This is where, things get just pushed off until maybe next year, or things just die completely?
Sure, there's a lot of stuff that will be getting pushed off. And frankly, though there are some important pieces still moving that I would like to see pass, again, they should have moved way earlier. The work, the hours should have been put in earlier. And here's just a little tidbit about me. When I first got into the legislature, it made me crazy because it takes them so long to do stuff. It's really not efficient, right? And so I grew up on a farm where you got up early and you got everything done that needed to be done before you went to bed, right? And then I went into contracting, and same thing. You put your head down and you attacked that job until you got it finished and you moved on to the next job. Last night I got out of the office a little after 5, and I drove home, had a quick supper, and went out and jumped on the tractor and did some farm work till dark. There are too few people in that building that have ever had to work like that. And so the work ethic isn't there to put the time in early on in the session when it needs to be put in to get the work done. And I really think leadership needs to buckle down on the work ethic.
So we do have a question. We will go ahead and read this. It says, do you acknowledge that many of these hurtful laws like Act 181, Act 59, and the Clean Heat Standard are essentially children of the Vermont Global Warming Solution Act? And do you agree that it should maybe be replaced?
Well, we were able to repeal the Clean Heat Standard, so that's gone. 181 is being rolled back. But I think what the questioner's getting at, or what I'm taking from it, is yes, these are sort of all part of the same movement. So from my perspective, when we look at Act 59, the 30 by 30 and 50 by 50, I'm all for conserving land, but I am not for the state of Vermont saying, hey, we're conserving your land, if that person doesn't get compensation and hasn't agreed to it. And that's a lot of what 181 did. It was like saying to people, oh, you paid big money for this and you're paying crazy taxes, but now you can't do anything on it. And so, they went a step too far. So my perspective on conserved land is working land. And if we don't support the people who work that land, then we don't have working lands. And I believe it is our working farms and forest land that make Vermont special, and those people who work it and put in the 100-hour weeks. Those are the people that make Vermont special. And so I try to support them. And when the people in the legislature talk about climate change and doing all these things that they believe are going to save the world, well, coming up with a new fuel tax on Vermonters is not going to save the world. Let's talk about things that actually can help. And so when I go out, one of the things I do on my farm is build soil. Building deep organic soil is one of the best things we can do for the planet. When you have thin soil and it rains really hard, most of the water runs off. When you have deep organic soil, when it rains really hard, it's like a sponge. Tons of water goes down into that soil. So by building soil and supporting our farmers to grow more food here, help incentivize growing more food here, we can have a bigger effect on climate change and flood resilience than any other method there is. We certainly can't have that effect by covering farm fields with solar panels. No. And I totally believe in net metering and solar panels, but let's put them where we need the power, on buildings, on parking lots, on infrastructure, not in farm fields that should be producing food. It wasn't very many generations ago, our families were not getting daily truckloads of fresh produce from California, right? We weren't getting avocados from Mexico and grapes from South Africa. And all that stuff is fine, but we could do what we do with milk. We export milk to the New England market. We import billions of dollars back to the state of Vermont. We could do the same thing with many, many other food groups. And so there's some really great stuff going on around Vermont. I'm trying to help connect people and build that network. And everywhere I go, I talk about building that soil and growing more food here, because I think it's essential for our food security, for nutritional value, and for keeping money in Vermont and bringing more money into Vermont.
You got any questions? Do you have anything?
Yeah, just so the tax on a second home. I own a camp, which is a camp.
Yep.
It's not, it's not year round, it's seasonal. It's really active in November.
Yep, good.
And how's that going to affect me? I mean, I already pay property taxes in the village that the camp is in.
Yep.
Plus taxes in the city of Barrie.
Yeah. No, I asked the president pro tem that the other day, and I've got to do some more digging on it because he wasn't sure. And I made that same point. So we've got a whole bunch of environmental lobbyists that as soon as the session's out, they'll jump on an airplane and fly to some destination and have a nice vacation. And a lot of them did it on our March break, right? Well, myself included, I've got an old camp that was built in the 1800s. It's one of the last few original camps left on the lake.
It's a little older than mine. Mine was 1950.
Yeah, mine was late 1800s, and a lot of it is still original, and it's a camp. But I don't get to go on vacation a lot. That's our vacation. We get to go to the camp for a few days here and there. And I know hundreds of Vermonters that are in that same position. They got a little camp on the lake. They got a hunting camp somewhere up in the bushes. And so I believe those should be taxed at a lower rate, not a higher rate. Now, if it's somebody that lives in New Jersey and has a expensive second home, then fine. They obviously can afford to pay a little more. But the property taxes are too damn high. And we should stop talking about increasing anybody's property tax, and we should start talking about cutting the cost.
Yeah.
Because quite frankly, I actually, during the campaign, one of my friends down in Rutland had a friend that lived up near the ski mountain. It must have been a beautiful house, because he said his property taxes had just gone up to $40,000. And the guy said, I can afford it, but I'm not going to. So what happens when you hit a level where all those people who can afford it say, nah, it's not worth it. And they all start putting stuff on the market, but our property taxes are so high that all of a sudden that market stalls because people are going, well, I can go buy a place in, Montana or somewhere else, and it's more reasonable. So I think we've got to be very careful. And like I said, I think everybody is paying more property taxes than they should be, whether they're residents, non-residents, or camp owners. And what we have to look at are the fundamentals of our education and our education funding system, and we've got to get the cost down.
Yeah.
As it stands right now, though, will in-state second homeowners be charged?
That's a good question
tax?
that I don't know the answer to, because there have been several iterations. At one point, they were trying to break it into like 4 categories, and then the last I heard, it was second homes. And I've asked several people, and some say, oh, it's supposed to be only second homes, not camps. Other people said, no, it's going to roll everything in. So I'm not exactly sure, but that legislation is in flux today. So people should be aware of it and should be talking to their legislators if they're concerned with it.
Right, about it right now.
Yep, right now.
And the real sad thing about that is a lot of them are generational camps as well.
Absolutely.
And they're things that, the kids have been passed down. And in some situations, it might be 3-4 kids that are splitting the taxes, but not always. And when things cost so much, there's not a lot of things that you can leave to your kids, but maybe you can leave them the hunting camp or the little camp on the lake. And it's sad that can't happen anymore.
And it's very sad. And like I said, from my own personal experience, and I know a ton of people that don't get a vacation every year. We went away the year before I got elected. We took the whole family down to Florida for a week and spent the week on the beach, and it was wonderful. And we're sitting there on the beach. My wife looks at me and she goes, it's been 20 years since we took a vacation. And I said, well, you're probably right, but it doesn't seem that long. But it is true. I mean, we'll take a day off or a couple days off here and there and go and do this and that. But to actually go and take a break where you're not worrying about anything, we've only done it a handful of times in our life. And, people who work as hard as Vermonters do, should be able to take a vacation. And a lot of folks, put that money into a camp or something here so they can staycation sort of, right? And so to take that away from those people, it would just be really tragic.
And it's a family connection.
And
You
it
can
is a
have the
family
all
connection.
over for hunting or for boating or whatever.
And I know a lot of people are already worried about holding on to those camps right now without an increase in property taxes because everything is so expensive.
Back in the 90s, I remember rented a couple of times on Joe's Pond.
Yep.
And there were these older camps around, and I got to talking to the owners. And even back then, they were saying that, they keep jacking up the taxes, that I can't keep this for my kids, not say nothing about my grandkids.
Yep, and we've been through the same thing with our camp, where we went several years where we rented it out to pay the
Just to help,
taxes and then have a nice day. You can't even go use your own camp because you're renting it out to pay the taxes.
Yeah.
So,
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
And I know a lot
tough.
of people that have camps on water, and that's the case with them.
Yep.
Like Joe's Pond, there's places up there that they're basically year-round homes. They're built like year-round homes.
Yep.
And they're getting, $1,000, $1,400 a
Oh
week.
yeah, big money. Some of them. Yep. Yeah. Well, we love ours, but it's old and funky.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why it's camp.
It's
right?
camp,
Right.
Right.
And when you
That's what
walk
makes it
in
great.
with your shorts dripping and dirt on your feet, you don't have to worry about it.
No.
At the end of the day, you mop it up and you're good to go. It's wash and wear.
Yeah, absolutely. What are the challenges that we're still facing?
Well, a lot of them. We haven't talked about healthcare yet. I think the healthcare committees did do some good work this year that will help bend the curve, but it's just too late. They waited too long, and I think the same is true of education. I think the majority in the legislature failed to recognize the train wreck coming at us for the last 20 years. It's been slowly increasing, right? At an unsustainable level, both education and healthcare. I've got a couple of friends, they're in their 30s, married, no kids, $38,000 with a high deductible for their health insurance this year. Now, in a state where your average income's around 50, that's pretty hard to swallow. And I know a lot of people who've dropped their insurance because they can't afford it. So just like property taxes, a little bend in the curve is better than not bending it, but it's too little too late.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're not working to live anymore. We're literally living to work.
Exactly. Yeah,
And that's where we're at.
And nobody should have to do that, work 7 days a week until you drop dead. People deserve weekends off, people deserve vacations, people deserve to get to a point in their life where they can retire and enjoy the end of their life. And I'm just hearing from so many Vermonters who are telling me that that's not the case. One particular story, a guy called me, lives in northern Vermont. He had a good job with the state of Vermont, retired from that. His wife worked for the federal government, had a good job. So they have well above an average retirement income, right? He told me they couldn't afford to live here anymore. And so when you're hearing from people like that, what about the person that didn't have that good government job, that doesn't have a big retirement, that's trying to survive on Social Security? It's tough.
Yeah, for sure. And, there was a time where people saved. You put money away, you saved, you
Yep.
had 401ks, money markets. You even had a savings account that you said, I'm going to put this much money a month away, and there's no money to save anymore.
Yeah.
And which leaves, again, when they do retire, it leaves a hole that can't be filled.
Yeah, and you got people working now into their 70s, and not because they want to, but because they know if they stop working, they're going to run out of money.
Are you worried about how Vermonters are going to heat their homes this coming winter?
I'm worried about how they're going to afford everything. When you couple the growing property taxes with the heating fuel. Yeah, it's in food prices. When you couple everything together, it's really starting to seem insurmountable. And so I think we're going to have a lot more folks struggling to make ends meet. I think there's going to be a lot more folks that are cutting down on some of the joy that people should have in life. A lot of the things that they do extra, I think people are probably going to have to dial back.
Yeah. What are your thoughts and feelings as far as scaling back on the amount of money that they're giving away for vouchers for housing and homelessness and I mean, a lot of money got poured into those programs over the last several years, and things got dialed back a little bit.
Yeah.
And there were shelters and things are opened. What are your thoughts around that?
Well, there again, I think we've made progress. I think it was kind of reactionary back during COVID, and we spent a massive amount of money that could have been invested better. Quite frankly, we could have bought a lot of those hotels and motels and transitioned them into affordable housing for what we spent for rooms. But that's kind of water under the bridge at this point. We actually just passed a bill through the Senate today dealing with homelessness. There again, it's back to the affordability crisis and the fact that there are very few affordable homes. So you have people that, couples that are working that have lost an apartment for whatever reason, and can't find one that's affordable enough to get into on their income, and they're homeless. And so it's an issue that we have to deal with. We have to figure out how to get more affordable housing on the ground so that everybody has housing. There are people with mental health challenges. There are people with substance use challenges. We need to make sure that we're steering them towards the treatments that they need to try to help them recover. And that all starts with housing. So something has to be done, but I am hoping going forward, and that's this Senate, the bill that passed through the Senate today seemed to be moving us in the right direction, cutting back on motels and hotels and vouchers and that stuff, and trying to figure out more permanent fixes for people. And there was some great questions on the floor, and folks wondering, okay, are we making progress, or are they the same people going through a revolving door? And one of the things that I'm hopeful about in this bill is it does ask for data, for feedback. And so I'm hoping with more information that we can stop that perceived revolving door and try to focus people into more permanent fixes.
Yeah, and hopefully maybe put some money where that's going to help, like recovery centers or recovery homes.
Yeah, and permanently
that
affordable.
you visited over here.
Yep.
Which, I mean, if you can get somebody clean, sober, give them time to get on their feet.
And give them a supportive roof, right? They've got a roof over their head, and they got support systems around them.
Yeah, because it's more than just a roof. That's
It
the
is,
thing.
absolutely.
You can give roofs all day. That's what people have done for 4 or 5 years now.
Exactly.
And that hasn't
And
worked.
that didn't help. Nope.
It has to be a supportive situation in order to go forward, for sure. And that just creates better things in the end. I still think, my thing, you should turn the old Windsor prison into one big, huge recovery house, and 1 year stays. Do it up.
Hey, there's a big piece of property down there. It should be used for something to benefit the state.
Well, they said housing is what they were going to use it for.
Well, how about mixed use housing, right?
Right.
Some for everybody, all different kinds.
And I mean, I don't know. I see Windsor as kind of a little bit more repressed type area where it's not as up and coming and booming and with tons of jobs and stuff. So for me, it would be the perfect solution where you could have something like that, this year-long program where people, the place is huge. They could, it just is. I know I was there.
Yep.
And so, you can do a lot there.
Yeah. No, it's a beautiful facility. I think one of the challenges is, like you said, Windsor's not a big place. There's not a lot of services. There's not a lot of jobs. So how do you put a bunch of housing in there if there aren't those other opportunities connected?
Right. So that's why you have a treatment facility instead. You give them a year to
And a farm.
Or yeah, right, a farm, right? Exactly. They can have gardens. They can maybe get their GED, build Huntington homes. They can learn all kinds of skills when they're there, and come out of there not only clean and sober, but with a means of going forward, which
Yeah.
many don't have now.
No, you're right, and that's the cool thing with some of the programs that are going on now. I'm
Jenna's.
good friends with the Tatros and
Yeah.
Jenna's, and when I see those young women working at the coffee house or up at their store, it's just it's perfect because they get up early, they do their program, and they do their job. It's like that's the kind of support that people need to become part of the community.
Right,
again.
and they're learning a skill other than to
Work
hustle
ethic,
and
skill,
figure it
all
out.
of it.
Yeah,
Yep.
all of it. They really are. And now they have Ben's place up in Derby. Have you been up there
Yes,
yet?
I have.
It's great.
And you know what? I wish we could find them more funding, because if they
Me
had
too.
more funding, they could actually transition more people out of the prison into that housing.
Yeah,
and it
'cause
would
it's
save
huge.
the state money.
Yeah, the house is big. They have plenty of room.
All they
and-
need is enough money to staff up a little more,
Yep.
and they could be offering a lot more bed space, and we could move some people out of prison quicker and save some money.
For sure, for sure. And it's a great place. It's a great program.
It sure is.
Lila, everybody over
They
there.
do a
Journey to
wonderful
Recovery,
job.
They do a great job. And that's also the Tatros are a part
Yep.
of that as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah, they're doing some good work.
it's not surprising to
Just
me
had
that-
young Gregory and his son in the office today.
Nice. Great people.
Yeah, we work with
for
them
sure.
a lot.
Yeah.
You know, a thing that bothers me here in the city. So we've got roughly 6,000 registered voters in the city. We just had our annual elections. You want to know how many people turned out to vote? Roughly 12 to 1,300 people.
Oh my goodness,
And it's like
Yeah.
that every year.
that is bad.
And then, these people will complain
Yep, but won't go
about
vote.
services and,
Yep.
and taxes going up, but they don't come out and vote.
No, and I encourage everybody. You gotta, if you want to be part of the solution, you gotta go to the meetings. You've got to be informed. You've got to vote. You've got to talk to your legislators. It is not a spectator sport, and that's one of the things that bothers me about the primary election system. When the primaries come around, we'll maybe get 20% of Vermonters out if we're lucky, right? And you always got to wonder, is that a true representation of what the people want? If everybody voted, would you get that same result? And I think not.
Not. Yeah, I agree.
But how do we get those people to the polls?
Yeah, I don't know.
I keep-
It's easier now than it's ever been.
Yeah.
It is.
To vote.
It's
Right.
simple to
You
vote.
can vote by mail.
Yep, you can early vote.
Yeah.
There's every opportunity.
And it's easy to watch the meetings. It's easy to watch your committees.
Yep.
They're available on Zoom. There's so many ways, and you can read minutes now.
Yep.
If you don't have time to watch, read minutes. For council meetings, some of the committee meetings, it's all there. It's so easily accessible now, far more than it ever
Way
was.
more than ever before. You would think that would increase turnout, but it doesn't seem to be.
So, and I'd like to know how many of these keyboard warriors are the ones that come out and vote. You
Right.
know, it's so easy to sit there
Oh, they
behind
got,
your screen and,
there's a lot of them that have something to say.
oh yes, oh yes.
For
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
For sure. It's it can be frustrating, for sure. And I'm sure just as much for you. I mean,
Yeah, here's the funny thing, guys. So, something got posted on Facebook. I can't remember if it was on my official site or what it was, but my wife is talking about some of the comments, and I said, "Honey, don't read the comments. I don't. We put information up there. Let people have at it. There are going to be good comments. There are going to be bad comments. There's going to be misinformation. There's going to be all that. But trying to argue with people on social media is not productive. I don't spend any of my time doing that because a fool will make a fool of themselves. And so you just let them have at it. And, it's kind of interesting. Sometimes I will, on an interesting subject, look at some of the comments just to see what people are saying. And a lot of times when somebody throws something, really off out there, several other people will start beating them back. And it's like, it's interesting, but I don't find the commenting super productive.
I'm guilty of it. I try not to be. I've been trying to be a lot better about just letting them go. I don't even look. I just don't let them go. Sometimes some of the other people that we work with will say, did you see this or that? And I'll say, no, not yet. But I've really been trying to avoid reading them because I am quick to respond sometimes, and then I don't do it in the best way.
Yep.
So I'm trying to be better about that.
I've gotten better.
It's hard.
It's a learning curve,
because you
Raylene.
want to defend yourself, of course.
Yes.
But then what is the point? Because nothing you say is going to matter.
Yep,
Nothing.
it's true.
And so I just usually do the same. I usually just let. But then I catch hell for letting people just say whatever they want.
I
too.
know, and
that's hard as well.
It is hard because I've had times where there's been misinformation spread, some of it by media, not small media, the real media that's supposed to be covering stuff, and it's like, what are you going to do? You're going to fight with them? It's like you can call them up and say, hey, that's not correct. Sometimes they'll correct it. Sometimes they won't. And, from my perspective, I think that's irresponsible when they know they made a mistake and they don't own it and correct it. We all make mistakes. I make mistakes. When I'm made aware that I have made a mistake, I own it. And I think it's important to own it. And if your mistake has hurt someone else or offended someone else, then I apologize for it and try to do better. And that's, as humans, that's, I think, the best we can do. We're all going to make mistakes. How do we handle the mistake? And do we try to do better?
Yeah. And I just, in ignoring it, admittedly, I just let somebody else beat the hell out of them. I'm like, somebody will take care of it. Don't worry about it. Somebody will take care of it. And I ignore it. But it is hard.
It is hard.
To do that.
Absolutely.
It's hard to bite your tongue and not say anything sometimes, for sure. But I'm getting better. I'm working on it.
Me too.
Yep.
We're a work in progress.
It's a progress. So thank you for coming. As always, it was a pleasure. And I just really appreciate you taking the time.
Always glad to be here, and let's do it again.
Absolutely. Sounds good. We're off to baseball.
Yep.
So games tonight, and so we are off to baseball. And until we won't see you tomorrow, we have to go pick up that fire pit.
Oh yeah.
From
I won a contest. I won a fire pit.
Nice.
For camp.
Nice.
So the old little cinder block fire pit's coming out, and this nice granite pit's going in.
Granite one. Sweet.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So that is what we're doing tomorrow. So we won't be in tomorrow. We've done plenty this week anyways. But we'll be back with everybody on Tuesday, and we will definitely keep track of what's going on in Montpelier, and Michael Booten and Mike and Taglibia, all those, they'll keep you posted anyway. And we'll see you next week.
Sounds great.
Thanks. Have a great day.